Okay, everyone. So, good morning. So, today we will continue discussions for our topics on errors on financial statements. Okay, so basically what we will do today is to answer some exercises which I hope na makatulong sana na mas maintindihan nyo pa ang topic on errors. Okay? Hoping na after this discussion is that meron na talaga kayong clear picture on how to deal with errors on financial statements. No? So, let's begin. So, for our first problem, okay, basically, we are given 5 errors which Blackjack Company noted for the years 2016 and 2018. Okay? The year of adjustment, is year 2018. So, you have to remember that, because, again, in making adjusting entries, it is very important for us, to know which year are we in, okay? Because it affects, okay, the focus or the direction of our adjustment. So, the first error is that the cost of installing a new computer system daw in 2017 was charged to expense, no? The computer system is expected to be useful for 5 years. Okay? So if we look at our prepared working paper or the summary of the working paper, okay? The computer system, okay, again, was charged to expense. If we could remember, under PES 16 or the Philippine Accounting Standards for property, plant and equipment, okay? Or for property, plant and equipment, di ba? Any cost directly related to bringing a particular property, plant, equipment to its working condition basically should be capitalized as part of the cost of that asset, no? Kumbaga, part siya ng cost. However, the company erroneously charged this to expense in 2017. So, if we look at its effect on the financial statements, okay, as far as the asset goes, okay, as far as the assets are concerned, obviously, our asset is understated. Kasi nga, dapat part siya ng cost of that asset, ginawa mo siya na expense. So, it is understated. Okay? Ang consequential effect nito, in 2017, because the whole amount was charged to expense, okay, it was charged to expense, obviously, your net profit is understated. Nasobrahan ka ng expense, di ba? Klaro yon. Okay? However, class, no? However, if we look at the transaction, is that because it should be capitalizable, there should be a related depreciation expense which should be depreciated according to its useful life for 5 years, di ba? So, ang effect nito is that somehow, in 2017, understated yung net profit natin by the amount charged fully to expense. As a consequential effect, it is also overstated because we did not recognize that depreciation resulting from the non-recognition of that particular cost as a capitalizable cost, di ba? So, let's say that the cost of that asset, let's say, is 150,000. Okay? So, divided by 5 years, okay, divided by 5 years, that would basically be, okay, we have a depreciation of 150,000 divided by 5 years. We should have a depreciation of 30,000 annual. Okay? Now, what happened is that this 150,000 was fully recognized as expense because it was not capitalizable, correct? This results to understatement of your net income by 150,000, di ba? However, this 30,000 of depreciation expense was also not recognized because again, the cost was not capitalized. So this will result to your overstatement of net income, di ba? The effect of the 250,000, it understates your net income by 150. The 30,000, it overstate your net income. Nasobraan ang recognize ka ng expense na 150, pero nagkulang ka ng 30,000 for the depreciation expense. Kumbaga, yun yung nangyari. So overall, if we total the error pertaining to this particular transaction, we have an understatement, okay? We have an understatement of 150,000, but we have an overstatement of 30,000 to your net income in 2017. So, ang effect, we have a net understatement of 120,000. Diba? That is why, ang effect ng error is that we have an understated asset, then we have an understated net profit pa rin. Okay? Or net income. So, in 2018, again, what will be its effect? Obviously, asset will still be understated kasi nga, kulang yung na-recognize natin na asset. Di ba? However, in the net profit, ang effect nito is that ito na lang, itong depreciation expense na lang na unrecognized na 30,000. Example lang, assuming yung amount, no? Assume amount. Itong 30,000 na lang. So, kung baga, in 2018, we have an understatement of asset, then we have an overstatement of net profit by 30,000. Okay? So, kuha, madali lang yun, no? In our next problem, in 2016 daw, remember the year, in 2016, some office personnel was trained to use the new management information system at the cost of 30,000, which was capitalized and subsequently amortized over 5 years. So, ang nangyari dito, class, is that kabaliktaran ng number 1 error. Okay? Kabaliktaran ng number 1 error. Which should be, okay, is that this is not a cost that would bring, okay, this is not a cost that would bring the particular asset to its working condition. This is cost of training. Okay? This is cost of training. Not to bring that particular asset to its working condition. Diba? So the point is, this should not be capitalized. But rather, it should be what? It should be charged to expense, no? It should be charged to expense. Hindi siya dapat capitalized. So, ang naging effect nito, is that in 2016, as far as the asset goes, we have an overstatement of asset. By how much? By 30,000. Okay? The net income in 2016, because we have recognized this as a capitalizable cost, obviously, the net income was also overstated by 30,000. Why overstated? Because again, this 30,000 should be fully expensed, pero kinapitalize natin part of the cost of the asset. So, ang result is, ang net income now is overstated by 30,000. Okay? However, because they amortized it for 5 years, okay? They amortized it by 5 years. Ang effect ngayon is that because of the amortization, which is amounting to 30,000, the cost divided by 5 years, we have a 6,000 amortization. It now becomes na yung effect ng 6,000 is that it understates the net income in 2016. In 2017, it will also understate your net income. That is also the same with 2018, diba? Because it is amortized for 5 years, okay? So now, in 2016, if we total the effect of the errors, okay? If we total the effect of the errors, we would have a net overstatement of 30,000 minus 6,000, correct? Net overstatement of 24,000. In 2017, we will have a net understatement of 6,000 because of the effect of the error in amortization, the same with 2018. Okay? So that is why if we look at our summarized worksheet, no, or audit working paper, in 2017, understated yung net income natin by 6,000. In 2018, it is also understated by 6,000. As far as the asset goes, obviously, overstated pa rin tayo ng 30,000. Kasi yun nga, we have erroneously recorded it as an asset now. So, klaro yan siya, ha? So, number 3. Interest cost on specific borrowings incurred to finance the construction of a building in 2017 was charged to interest expense. The building has an estimated useful life of 40 years. Okay. So the concept ito, class, diba, if we can remember our topic on borrowing costs for acquisition of property, plant, and equipment. Okay? Specific yung purpose. We borrowed funds because we want to acquire or we want to construct, for example lang, a building. Diba? Those type of interest cost or borrowing cost, class, under our Philippine accounting standards are capitalizable. Klaro yun siya, ha? Any borrowing cost or interest incurred in the acquisition or construction of a property, plant, and equipment, okay, basically is a capitalizable cost, not an expense. So in this particular problem, the company charged this to expense, which should be part of the cost. So parang number 1 lang, di ba? Parang number 1 error lang. So ang effect is that, obviously, same concept in our analysis for number 1, it understates your asset. Net profit also, it will understate your net income or net profit, no? Same concept pa rin because it should be capitalizable, so it should have a related depreciation expense, which should be for 40 years. However, yung amount ng depreciation nito, which basically will overstate, okay? Which basically will overstate your net income, okay? Which basically will overstate your net income is that it will not, okay? It will not overcome the error that resulted from your recognition of it as an entire or as a whole expense, no? So obviously, yung effect ito sa net profit is still net understatement pa rin. Same with number 1. Okay? Same with the first error, no? In 2018, obviously, your asset is still understated pa rin kasi yun nga, hindi mo siya nakapitalize. However, yung net profit nito would be overstated na. Bakit na overstated nito? Because we did not recognize the related depreciation expense. Okay? So, yun. Ba, medyo madali lang, no? Pag iisa-isahin natin yung specific ng error, okay? Actually, yung concern lang talaga nito is yung what is important is that you should have a strong foundation on what is required by the standard when it comes to recognizing certain transactions. Because again, yung error kasi if we look at it na kumbaga parang mahirap siya tingnan. But then again, if you know what is required, then it will be easy for you to analyze and organize what should be done with that error, no? Importante talaga yung may strong foundation ka ng iyong financial accounting. Okay? So number 4, error. In 2017 daw, a land was bought for employees parking lot. Okay, so bumili ng lupa yung entity. Okay? However, okay, meron daw na 120,000 which is a direct attributable cost pero na-charge again to expense. Again, it is a direct attributable cost. So meaning, pag direct attributable cost, anong dapat ginagawa? Kina-capitalize. Part of the cost of the land. Okay? Part of the cost of the land. So the point is, in 2017, the effect on asset is obviously understated. By how much? 120,000. Sa net profit, obviously, it is also understatement. We have a net income which is understated because, again, this 120,000 should not be an expense. It should be capitalizable. So, understated tayo by 120,000. Diba? In 2018, same with asset, understated pa rin because there was no correction made. Now, sa net income natin, no effect na siya because for number 1, the transaction pertains to land. No? Ang land naman kasi is hindi nagdi-depreciate, 'di ba? You already know that land is not a depreciable asset. So, subsequent years wala na siyang effect yung error because walang depreciation, okay? Walang depreciation, no effect. Pero sa asset natin, it is still understated because walang ginawang correction. Okay? Walang ginawang correction. So next, okay? The estimated dismantling cost of several manufacturing facilities constructed at the beginning of 2017, which the enterprise incurs a constructive obligation, was not recognized. The manufacturing facilities have a useful life of 20 years. So, let us try to analyze this error, no? Actually, class, these particular transactions relate to the concept of having provisions. Okay? So, basically, if you may notice the error, the company, okay, constructed a manufacturing facility, okay, a manufacturing facility which the entity incurs a constructive obligation that at the end of its useful life for 20 years, it should be dismantled. No? Siguro, although not stated, when we talk about constructive obligation kasi, is that this is an obligation which you have accepted the responsibility, okay? Which you have accepted the responsibility na at a certain point, you are responsible to do something, okay? To do something, which in this particular case, okay, is that what you have accepted is the responsibility to dismantle this manufacturing facility, okay? Now, this is very common, especially in the case if the particular asset that you are constructing basically is somehow will affect, will have an effect environmentally, no? Like if you are to construct a drilling asset when it pertaining to, let's say, if your business is related to oil exploration, no, that drilling equipment or asset na ipuput up mo, basically you are required to dismantle that, because if hayaan mo lang yan siya, that is hazardous to mother nature. So at the end of your operation, okay, at the end of the operation, you are required to dismantle that, which you should lawfully accept. Okay, or basically you are required by law to do that. Okay? That is your accepted responsibility, no? Now, that is a constructive obligation. Okay? That is a constructive obligation. Okay? In our standards, that should be considered as a provision. Okay? Which, if a certain transaction, okay, or if a certain obligation is to be considered as a provision, it is recognized in our financial statements. Okay? It will be recognized as a liability, particularly a liability to your balance sheet or statement of financial position. This is basically estimated liability. Okay? The corresponding cost for this estimated liability, okay, under the standards for provision, this should be added, okay, to your cost. Okay? This should be added to your cost, or meaning, okay, in essence, if there is a constructive obligation and you are required to recognize the estimated liability, the corresponding debit of that would basically be charged to the cost of your asset, or in short, this is a capitalizable cost. Okay? So what happens is that same in number 3 and number 1. A capitalizable cost, which in essence should be part of the cost of the asset, recognized directly as an expense. So what happens is that in your asset, it is understated. In your net income, it is also understated. Although, again, same concept, the depreciation expense or the non-recognition of the depreciation expense will result to an overstatement of net income, but somehow it cannot overcome the effect of the full recognition of that expense, of that error. Okay? So it is still understated. Net understatement of net income. In 2018, still your asset is understated. Because yun nga, walang correction ginawa. However, in your net income, okay, it is now overstated. Okay, it is now overstated. So that is the effect, or that is basically our analysis for exercise problem 1. No? Medyo madali lang talaga siya if you know what is the applicable standards, what is the applicable procedure or recognition to be done, no? Kasi yun nga, pag alam mo kung ano yung standard, obviously, alam mo rin kung ano yung mali, if ever, then you would know how to adjust. Okay? So, next problem tayo. Next exercise problem. So, the Love Company, okay, was organized daw on January 1, 2016. And since its inception, has not recognized accruals and deferrals. Okay? So basically, this is a classic adjustment of errors wherein failure to recognize accruals and deferrals. Diba? Failure to recognize accruals and deferrals. So, okay. If we look at our analysis here, okay, if we look at our analysis, okay, so let's deal with it one by one, okay. So this particular failure to recognize errors and or accruals and deferrals. So first, non-recognition. The entity failed to recognize prepaid expenses in 2016, 2017, and in 2018, amounting to 29,000, 30,000, and 34,000 respectively. Diba? So, what is the effect of this error now? Okay, so, by the way, no, these are the net income as presented, no, prior to any error adjustment. Okay? So we have in 2016, we have a net loss of 120,000. In 2017, we have a net income of 100, and in 2018, 200,000. In 2018 class, beginning, which is January 1, 2018, which is this is the year of audit or evaluation, no? We have a retained earnings of obviously negative or negative retained earnings of 20,000. Negative 20,000. How did we get that? Ito, net loss in 2016 plus the net income of 2017. Diba? So obviously, the retained earnings beginning is that it is 120,000, diba? Net loss plus 100,000. So we have a, diba? Negative retained earnings of negative 20,000, diba? So going back to the error, okay? So if we fail to recognize a prepaid expense, ano yung nangyayari dyan? There was an expense paid on a particular year. So, for example, in 2016, no, itong 29,000. This was paid in 29,000. However, this is not applicable in 2016 because yun nga, this error is incurred in 2017. Kasi yun nga, prepaid siya. Diba? Prepaid. Paid today, incurred subsequently. Diba? Paid currently, incurred in subsequent period. So the point is, okay, if we did not recognize this as a prepaid expense, obviously, this will overstate your, what is your overstatement? It will overstate your expense. Diba? So, if overstated yung expense mo, ano yung effect niyan sa net income? Obviously, it will understate your net income. Kasi yun nga, sobra yung expense. Okay? It should be recognized as an asset prepaid. pero ginawa mo siyang expense. Understated yung net income mo. That is in 2016, which is the year of error. Subsequently, what happens is that in 2017, this will what? This will overstate your net income. Why? Because it should be that in 2017, dapat nag-recognize ka na ng expense mo of 29,000. Pero ano yung nangyari? Hindi mo siya na-recognize. So what happens? Your net income now is what? Overstated. Kasi dapat may dinidak ka na expense pero hindi mo nagawa kasi yun nga, ginawa mo na noong 2016 erroneously. Sobra yung net income mo. Diba? So if we look at the effect of this transaction per retained earnings, ang effect dito is that zero. Diba? Why zero? Because yun nga, nag-counterbalance. Nakuha nyo? Di ba ito yung concept natin sa counterbalancing error? An error in the previous period that will basically have a counterbalancing effect in the current year per retained earnings. Di ba? Kung titingnan natin, kung i-add mo yan, di ba, zero? So that is a counterbalancing error. Di ba? So, that is the effect of failure to recognize prepaid expense. In 2017, same pa rin, no? You fail to recognize 30,000. So, yung effect nito is that yung net income mo in 2018 is that overstated by 30,000. In 2017, you are understated by 30,000. In 2018, the effect is that, again, diba? Understated yung net income mo by 34,000. Okay? So, the accounts affected, if you may notice, the accounts affected, if you may notice, prepaid expenses. Number one, ito yung effect, yung apektado, 'di ba? Kasi yun nga, we fail to recognize that when it comes to the balance sheet, no? Yung prepaid expense natin. The error in 2016 and in 2017, if you remember, no? The year of audit or evaluation is 2018. So what will be its effect? Obviously, in 2017, wala nang effect itong mga error na to. Okay? Or in 2018 rather, wala nang effect ang mga error na to. Kasi yun nga, nag-counterbalance na siya in 2017. Di ba? Itong error in 2017, wala na rin siyang effect as of 2018 kasi yun nga, nag-counterbalance na ito in 2018. So, alin dito yung may effect when it comes to prepaid expenses? Ito lang, non-recognition natin, which basically, it understates your prepaid expense na kulang ka. So, dapat mo yan siya i-add. Diba? Dapat mo yan siya i-add. When it comes to expenses, again, itong error in 2016, no effect kasi nag-counterbalance na in 2017. However, tulad nga ng sinabi natin kanina, itong 30,000 na failure of recognition nito in 2017, basically, it overstates your income, net income ito, kaya nga may negative quotation siya kasi nga kulang yung expense mo. That is why we have to correct that in 2018, 'di ba? We should add it to our expense, not 30,000. When it comes to that 34,000 error prepaid in 2018, itong 34,000, you should deduct it to your expense. Di ba? Overstated yung expense mo by 34. So, ito yung kumbaga, this will be deducted to your expenses. Okay? So, okay, medyo madali lang, di ba? No? Next, error. Failure to recognize unearned revenue. So again, the entity failed to recognize unearned revenue. So anong nangyari dyan? May natanggap kang pera. The problem is, yung pera na natanggap mo pertaining to a revenue is that hindi siya applicable for the current year. But applicable siya for subsequent years. So the point is, if you fail to recognize an unearned revenue, it will what? It will overstate your revenue or net income. Okay? It will overstate your revenue and net income. Kasi yun nga, dapat, hindi siya dapat revenue mo, pero na-recognize mo na revenue. Sobra yung revenue mo. Diba? Sobra. So, in 2016, we have a 20,000 error. Overstated yung net income natin because of this error. Diba? However, in 2017, it will counterbalance because, because itong error na to, dapat 2017 mo siya dapat i-recognize, di ba? Dapat 2017. Okay? Dapat 2017. Pero yung nangyari is that na-recognize mo siya in 2016. So ano yung effect niyan? Kulang yung net income mo in 2017. Okay? Kulang yung net income mo in 2017. Next is that the error in 2017, same effect pa rin. Overstated ka in 2017, understated ka in 2018. In 2018, overstated ka by 15,000. Pero in 2019, you will be what? Understated by 15,000. Okay? So as to effect sa retained earnings class, obviously, yung error natin in 2016 is that nag-counterbalance na. So, no effect na to sa retained earnings beginning natin in 2018. Itong error in 2017, obviously, ano yung effect nito sa retained earnings natin? Ito, di ba? Hindi pa siya, kumbaga, at the beginning of 2018, hindi pa to nag-counterbalance, obviously, kasi beginning of the year pa. So, the retained earnings in 2018 is overstated by 28,000 because of this error. Okay? Because of that error. Obviously, ito, wala rin itong effect sa retained earnings beginning natin because this happens within the year or particularly at the end of the year. So, no effect pa siya sa retained earnings beginning natin. Diba? As to individual effect on accounts, okay, obviously, walang effect yan siya dyan kasi yun nga, nag-counterbalance na siya within the year. Yung error natin in 2017 and yung 2016. Yung effect natin sa unearned revenue or yung may effect sa unearned revenue lang natin is that itong at the end of the year, we fail to recognize the 15,000 unearned revenue. So, the unearned revenue is understated. Di ba? That will overstate your net or your revenue in 2018. Okay? Kulang yung unearned, yung effect is that overstated yung revenue mo kasi nasobrahan ka ng recognize. May unearned portion pa dapat. In 2018 also, the effect of that error in 2017, ito is that dapat ito siya na revenue is earned mo siya in 2018. Diba? Earned mo siya in 2018, pero na-recognize mo siya as error in 2017. So the point is, kulang yung revenue mo by 28,000. Okay? By 28,000. No? So, next. Okay? Error. Failure to recognize accrued expenses. So, anong nangyari niya ng accrued expenses? We fail to recognize accrued expense. Meron daw tayong expenses na incurred during the year, pero hindi pa natin binayaran. Ang maling nangyari, if we fail to recognize that, is that dapat, although hindi mo pa siya binayaran during the year, is that expense mo na siya, di ba? Kaya nga may concept tayo ng accrual, di ba? The point is, dapat nag-recognize ka ng accrued expense. Recognize the expense when incurred regardless of when paid. The concept of accrual. So if we fail to recognize an accrued expense, obviously, it will overstate our net income. Okay? It will overstate kasi yun nga, dapat nag-recognize ka na ng expense, although hindi mo pa nabayaran, dapat i-recognize mo na siya. Kung hindi mo siya na-recognize because you fail to recognize the accrual, is that sobra yung net income mo. Diba? Ang effect in the subsequent year is that dito mo siya mare-recognize kasi this is the year that you will pay for this. Diba? So the effect is, sobra yung expense mo dito kasi yun nga dapat dito mo siya na-recognize. Hindi dito. Diba? Sobra. So what will be the effect of that? It will understate your net. It will understate your what? Net income. Diba? It will understate your net income. This is basically a counterbalancing error. That is why, yung effect nito sa retained earnings beginning natin is that it will have no effect because this happened to your 2016 and 2017. However, the error in 2017, it will overstate your retained earnings beginning in 2018. Ito yun siya, oh. Diba? Again, ito, hindi pa natin ito ma-recognize because this will counterbalance during the year, not at the beginning. Diba? So, yung effect ng error niyan is that ito lang muna. Diba? For this, again, the error at the end of 2018, particularly in 2018 is that wala rin siyang effect sa retained earnings beginning natin kasi yun nga, itong error happened at the end of the year. Diba? However, that will affect your individual or your specific account. No? Again, ito wala na itong effect sa accrued expense natin at the end of the year because in general, during the year, it has already counterbalance, di ba? Yung may effect dyan is that itong accrued dito lang sa 28 or at the end of 2018 na error. Itong overstatement or non-recognition of 27,000. So the point is, in 2018, yung accrued expense mo is understated, obviously. Kasi nga, di ba, hindi mo siya na-recognize. So, understated ka. Ang effect niyan sa expense is also understated. Yung expense mo. Kasi yun nga, hindi mo siya na-recognize as expense, as a liability, di ba? Expense and a related liability, accrued expense, no? The error in 2017, itong 25,000, it will overstate your expense. Diba? Kaya nga ito, negative quotation, no? It will overstate your expense. Why? Again, because it is in this year that you will recognize it when in fact it should be recognized in 2017. So, nagsobra itong expense mo. Kaya ibabawas natin yan siya. Okay? Next error. Failure to recognize accrued revenue. So, if we fail to recognize accrued revenue, di ba kabaliktaran ito? No? Ng unearned. So, kung ang unearned, naka-receive ka ng pera, pero hindi pa siya dapat revenue, that is why you should recognize a liability for that unearned revenue. Accrued revenue, hindi ka pa naka-receive ng pera, hindi ka pa naka-receive ng pera, pero that particular income is already earned. Di ba? Yun siya. So, ang effect niyan, in the current year, let's say, for that error in 2016, which is 42,500, it will understate your net income. Kasi yun nga, although hindi mo pa na-receive yung pera, pero income mo na siya. Hindi mo siya na-recognize erroneously. So, it will understate your net income. Diba? In 2017, which is the date where or when you receive the money or the cash for that particular income, doon mo siya na-recognize ngayon as income. So, what is the effect niyan? Overstated yung net income mo. Counterbalancing error. Diba? Counterbalancing error. So, the point is, as to effect on accounts, again, understated yung accrued revenue mo by 41,000. Your revenue in 2018 is affected by the error in 2017 and 2018, which is, again, pagdating ng error ng 2017, sobra yung revenue mo. Kasi dapat itong 45,000 should be recognized in 2017. However, kulang yung revenue mo because dapat, particularly in 2018, dapat nag-recognize ka ng accrued revenue or a receivable, para mas maintindihan natin, a revenue receivable in 2018 amounting to 41,000. Hindi mo siya na-recognize. So, your revenue is understated. Di ba? So, after all these adjustments, class, after all this correction, the correct net income in 2016 is that a net loss of 96,000. In 2017, we have a net income of 98. In 2018, a correct net income of 211. The retained earnings beginning, the correct amount is that 2,000 positive. Ba? So, doon tayo sa journal entry ngayon. Okay? Doon tayo sa journal entry. So, ito yung nangyari, no? Diba? Sa prepaid expense. So, how will we correct that in 2018? So, obviously, if we look at the effect of that error in 2018 if we look at the effect of the error per working paper natin, diba? Is that the retained earnings, we have an understatement of 30,000. The prepaid expenses, we have an understatement of 34, which pertains to that 2018. Ito, diba? And your expense, we have a net overstatement of 4,000. The effect of that error in 2017, ito, di ba? Which basically, if you fail again to recognize prepaid expense, okay? If you fail to recognize your prepaid expense, it will overstate your di ba? It will overstate your expense. So, kaya ito, yun siya. Itong 30,000, again, understated siya. Understated yung effect in 2018 because this was recognized as a full expense in 2017, where in fact dapat expense siya in 2018. Kaya understated yung expense natin. Overall, yung effect niyan is that we have a net overstatement of 4,000. Di ba? So, di ba, mas madali kung meron tayong worksheet, no? Or itong working paper na na-organize yung error. So, the entry is, we debit 34,000. Ito. Kasi nagkulang tayo na recognition nito. Itong 34,000. Then, we will correct the retained earnings. We credit retained earnings because again, understated yung retained earnings natin by 30,000. And, we will deduct 4,000 from our expenses. That is why credit expenses tayo sa correction. But kasi yun nga, kung titingnan natin, yung net effect sa expense is that we have a overstatement of 4,000. Diba? We have an overstatement of 4,000. So, klaro, diba? No? So, next. When it comes to that unearned revenue, again, as noted, yung effect nito, di ba? Yung 2017 is that we have an overstatement of retained earnings. Kaya, yung entry natin dyan, because it is an overstatement of retained earnings, dapat bawasan natin. Debit retained earnings by 28,000. Diba? Effect on individual accounts sa unearned revenue natin, in 2018, we have an understatement of 15,000, di ba? Per analysis, per working paper. So, what will be our entry? Credit your unearned revenue by 15,000 because again, nagkulang ka sa unearned revenue mo. Recognize an additional liability. Di ba? At the same time, nagsobra yung revenue mo pertaining to that 2017 error kasi nga dapat nagkulang pala, understated yung revenue mo pertaining to that 2018 kasi yun nga it was recognized in 2017 pero dapat 2018 understated ka. At the same time, nagkulang yung or nanobra yung revenue mo kasi yun nga in 2018, dapat may unearned revenue ka na 15, pero ni-recognize mo siya as revenue, so sobra. The net effect of that error is that it is a net understatement. Okay, net understatement of 13,000. So, kung net understatement siya, you need to add ito. Kaya, credit to revenue, 13,000. Diba? Next, is for the effect of that accrued expenses. Okay? Effect of that accrued expenses. Your retained earnings, you have an overstatement of 25. Debit, 25,000. Diba? Your accrued expense, you have a net understatement of 27. Ito yung error natin in 2018. Diba? Understatement. Kaya, credit ka ng accrued expenses, which is a liability. Diba? Which is a liability. When it comes to your expenses, you have a net understatement of 2,000. Okay? You have a net understatement of 2,000. Kaya, debit ka ng 2,000. Okay? So, madali lang, diba? So, number 4, the retained earnings is that net understatement ka ng 45. Kaya, mag-credit ka ng 45,000. Credit. Diba? Your accrued revenue, okay, your accrued revenue, which is, diba, in simple terms, this is a receivable, no? Understated daw by 41,000. So, you debit it by 41,000. The revenue, you have a net overstatement of 4, kaya dapat mo bawasan. Debit your revenue by 4,000. Okay? So, that is for our second exercise, no? Diba? Basta ma-organize lang natin yung di ba, yung analysis. Di ba madali lang kasi yun nga determined na yung mga amount na ang dali na lang ng adjusting entry natin. Again, dapat rule of journal entry, alam mo kung ano yung mga normal balances din kasi para alam mo kung ano yung correction na gagawin. Yung problem dyan is that alam mo na yung account, hindi mo alam yung normal balance. Di ba? So the point is, yun nga, kahit nasa practical auditing na tayo na topic, no, considered as an advanced accounting subject, you always need, okay? Or, the point is, you should never forget your basics. Okay? Basics is important. The fundamentals, kasi yun nga, kahit nasa higher accounting ka na, gaano kataas yung accounting mo, it all boils down to your fundamentals. Dapat alam mo yung basic. So yun nga, tulad nito. Diba? Alam mo na yung error. Determine mo na yung amount. Alam mo na kung anong account yung i-adjust mo. Pero hindi mo alam yung normal balances ng account. Mali pa rin yung adjustment. Diba? So you should know the basics. Okay? So, next problem, okay? This is still a exercise for failure to recognize accruals and deferrals. Okay? So, failure to recognize accruals or deferrals pa rin to, di ba? So, ito, di ba? So, let's analyze one by one. Okay? Let's analyze one by one. Okay. So, for the number one error class, okay, for the number one error, the entity failed to accrue wages. So, meaning, failed to recognize accrued expenses. 160,000 at the end of 2018. So, the expense was charged when paid in 2019. Okay, when paid in 2019. So again, the point is, if we fail to recognize an accrual of expense, ano yung nangyari? Kulang. Ano yung kulang natin? Kulang ang expenses. Okay? Kulang yung expenses. So if kulang yung expenses natin, ano yung consequential effect? Sobra ang net income. Di ba? Opposite effect yan siya. No? Opposite effect. So, in 2018, ano yung nangyari? Sobra yung net income by 160,000. Dapat bawasan. In 2019, okay, in 2019, kung saan, di ba, dito mo siya binayaran, so dito mo siya na-recognize na expense. So, ano yung nangyari? Sobra yung expense, kulang yung net income, kaya dapat dagdagan. Di ba? Dapat dagdagan. Ang effect niyan sa retained earnings natin is that overstated yung retained earnings beginning natin, which is on January 1, 2019. Ito yun, oh. Again, wala tong effect sa retained earnings beginning natin. Ito. Kasi yun nga, this will counterbalance during the year. The wage expense, okay? The wage expense in 2019, okay, the wage expense in 2019 obviously is, anong nangyari? Sobra. Kasi yun nga, itong 2018 na to, dapat 2018 to na-recognize na expense. Kaso, because 2019 mo siya binayaran, na-recognize mo siya as expense in 2019. Kaya sobra. Dapat mo bawasan. Okay? So, klaro yan siya ha. So, next. Accrued interest income. So, anong nangyari dyan? Meron ka ng na-earn na interest income amounting to 48,000 in 2018. Pero, nirecord mo lang daw siya as income in 2019. So, ano yung nangyari? Obviously, kulang yung income mo in 2018 by 48,000. In 2019, sobra naman siya kasi yun nga, dito mo pa siya na-recognize kung kailan mo siya na-kolekta. Diba? Kung kailan mo siya na-kolekta. So, sobra. Dapat mo ibawas. Diba? Effect sa retained earnings, obviously, kulang siya ng 48,000. Interest income mo in 2019 is that ito, sobra naman. Di ba? Kasi yun nga, dapat ito, recognize mo na siya in 2018. This is your receivable with a corresponding credit to your interest income. Pero, na-recognize mo siya as interest income in 2019. So, sobra yung interest income. Diba? Ito. An insurance premium covering 3 years. Now, remember ha? 3 years. Starting April 1, 2018. Was paid on March 31, 2018. Lahat daw ng premium na to, chinarge mo as interest expense in 2018. Walang ginawang adjustment in 2018 and 2019. So, the point is, di ba, this is a prepaid, di ba? This is a prepaid expense. No, this is a prepaid expense. Amounting to 60,000. Di ba? Amounting to 60,000. Which, basically, applicable daw in 3 years. So, that means, if 3 years siya, okay, if 3 years siya, that means na 3 times 12 months, that is applicable for 36 months. Diba? So, if we would try to divide that, okay, if we would try to divide that, para ma-determine natin kung magkano talaga monthly yung insurance expense natin, is that 60,000 divided by 36. So, we will have a monthly insurance expense sana of 1,666.67. I-round off na lang natin. Okay? 0.67. Okay? So, the point is, in 2018, diba? From April to December 2018, that is obviously 9 months. Correct? That is obviously 9 months lang. So that means, kung 9 months lang, dapat ang nirecognize mo na expense sana is that itong monthly amortization natin na 1,000.67, 1,666.67 times 9, dapat ang expense mo is dapat 15,000 lang. Diba? Dapat 15,000 lang. Ito. Pero, ang ginawa mo is that na-recognize mo lahat ang 60,000. So, ano yung effect natin dyan? Obviously, your net income in 2018 is understated by 45,000. So, paano natin kinuha yung 45,000? Kumbaga, di ba, magkano yung na-recognize mo na expense lang? That is 60,000, di ba? Magkano yung dapat lang? 50,000 o 15,000 na expense. So the point is, sobra ka ng 45,000. Di ba? Sobra ka ng 45,000. So that is your understatement of your 2018 net income. Sumobra ka ng 45,000. Ang effect nito in 2019, okay? Ang effect nito in 2019 is that because it was already recognized fully as an expense in 2018, hindi ka na nag-recognize ng expense nito in 2019. Tama? However, di ba dapat in 2019 dapat may na ma-recognize ka na expense for 12 months, di ba? So the point is in 2019 dapat itong monthly amortization or monthly insurance expense mo na 1,666.667 for 1 year in 2019, dapat ma-recognize mo siya. That would basically be na dapat in 2019, mayroon kang times 12, mayroon kang 20,000 na i-recognize dapat na expense. Pero ano yung nangyari? Hindi mo siya na-recognize. Kaya, yung effect niya sa net income natin is that the net income is overstated by 20,000. Okay? It is overstated by 20,000. Next. So, ang effect niyan sa retained earnings beginning natin, obviously, overstated yung retained earnings beginning natin by 45,000. Understated pala. Understated by 45,000. So, individual accounts, at the end of 2019, ano yung effect sa prepaid insurance natin? Diba? Ang expense natin dito for this particular insurance is that meron na tayong na-expense meron na tayong na-expense in 2018 na magkano yung expense natin in 2018? That was 15,000. Diba? That was 15,000. In 2019, meron na tayong na-expense na 20,000. So overall, ang total expense portion na ng prepaid expense is that 35,000. Diba? 35,000. So ngayon, because wala tayong na-recognize na prepaid insurance talaga, the point is, di ba 60,000 tayo, no? Na prepaid original amount. Minus the expense portion of 35,000, dapat meron pa tayong natira na 25,000 for your prepaid insurance. Ito. Diba? Obviously, yung insurance expense natin, understated siya by 20,000. Yung effect ng error ng 2019. Ito. Di ba? It understated your insurance expense by 20,000. Okay? So, number 4, okay? The entity failed to record, 25,000 and 28,000 unused office supplies in 2018 respectively. Cash expenditures of 45 were charged to the office supply expense account during the year 2018 and 2019. Okay. So basically, failure to recognize unused supplies. Diba? So if we fail to recognize unused supplies, okay, so if we fail to recognize an unused supplies, what is the effect of that error? It will, what? If we fail to recognize an unused supplies, it will overstate, okay? it will overstate your supplies expense. Kasi yun nga, may mga hindi pa nagamit pero chinarge mo na siya as expense. Sobra yung expense mo by how much? 25,000 in 2018 and 28,000 in 2019. Ito. So the effect of that error in 2018, which is itong 25,000 class, is that kung dito sumobra ka ng supplies, kaya naging understated yung net income mo, in 2019 naman, nagkulang ka naman ng supplies. Kasi yun nga, ito dapat to be recognized in 2019. Diba? Na supplies expense. So, nagkulang ka. So, effect is, overstated yung net income mo. Kasi yun nga, nagkulang yung supplies mo. The 2019 error, which is itong 28,000, is that yung effect niya sa 2019 net income natin na 3,500 is that it will obviously understate your net income by 28,000. Kasi yun nga, sumobra ka ng expense, di ba? Sumobra ka ng expense. So, as to sa retained earnings, okay, the retained earnings is understated by 25,000. So, individual effect ng error sa account is that in 2019, okay, in 2019, as to your unused supplies, kulang ka by 28,000. Itong error natin in 2019, ito. Okay? Kulang ka. However, in your supplies expense, the net effect of that error is that an overstatement of 3,000. Paano yan kinuha? Ito, di ba? Di ba in 2018 ang effect nito sa supplies expense natin is that kulang tayo ng 25,000, di ba? Again ha? In 2019, okay, unused supplies, nagkulang tayo ng 25,000. Correct? Kasi yun nga, recognized na siya in 2018. Okay? For this particular error, itong 2018 error natin. For the 2019 error, okay, for the 2019 error, sumobra naman tayo ng 28,000, di ba? Kasi yun nga, dapat, itong 28,000 is i-recognize to siya kailan? In 2020. Pero, recognize siya as supplies expense in 2019. So, sumobra tayo. So, the net effect of that error in unused supplies is that we have an overstatement of 3,000. Diba? We have an overstatement of 3,000. So, kaya nga, ito. Diba? Number 5. Research and development cost amounting to 120,000, okay, were incurred early in 2017, okay. They were capitalized and amortized over 3 years. So, amortization was recorded in 2017 and 2018. However, okay, none of that cost meets the criteria for capitalization daw. So, the point is, hindi siya dapat kinapitalize. Okay? Hindi siya dapat kinapitalize. Dapat charge to expense siya. That is for 2017. Diba? So, dapat, itong 120,000, okay, itong 100,000, this should be expense. Pero anong ginawa? Kinapitalize. So, anong effect nito sa net income natin? This will, what? We fail to recognize it as an expense. So, basically, this will, what? Overstate your net income. Itong 20,000. Diba? It will overstate. However, because it was amortized, okay? If we amortize that in 3 years, so let's have a full year amortization because early in 2017 man. So that is basically 120,000 divided by 3. That is 40,000. Diba? Recognized annual amortization. So the point is, in 2017, okay? In 2017, because they recognized it as a capitalizable cost, nagkulang ang expense natin by 120,000. However, with its related amortization, which dapat hindi sana, kasi yun nga, expense siya, hindi capitalizable, nagsobra naman tayo by 40,000. So again, nagkulang ng 120 kasi kinapitalize. Pero pertaining to your depreciation, nanobra naman tayo ng 40,000 or amortization rather, nagsobra tayo ng 40,000 because it was recognized as amortization. So yung effect nito is that we have a net understatement of 80,000. That is in 2017. Net understatement of your expense. So, if understated yung expense mo, ano yung effect sa net income? Obviously, your net income is overstated. Okay? Your net income is overstated by 80,000. Okay? So, klaro yan siya ha? Next. In 2018, okay, in 2018, kasi nga, di ba, 2017, 2018, 2017, 2018, 2019, you have recognized your amortization. Or sorry, in 2019, hindi pa pala. Pero in 2017, 2018, nag-recognize ka na ng amortization. Diba? So, the point is, okay, in 2018, yung expense mo is sumobra ka na ng how much? 40,000 because of the amortization. So, ano yung effect niyan? Pag nagsobra ka ng 40,000, it will understate your net income by 40,000. So, ang effect sa retained earnings niyan is that, or that also goes to your 2019 na net income, no? Kasi yun nga, 3 years mo siya inamortize. So, ang effect sa retained earnings niyan, again, beginning kasi tayo, so the effect of that error in 2017 and 2018 only. So, we have a net, okay, overstatement of 40,000. Ito, di ba? Add mo yan. So, the retained earnings beginning, we have a negative 40,000. So, how will we correct that or individual effect? Obviously, sa research and development natin, in 2019, the effect is that overstated yung R&D cost natin because it was capitalized when it should be na hindi dapat. Okay? Okay. So, yun. So, next. The company received a 120,000 cash daw from a customer for services to be performed evenly over 3 years. So, anong problem to? Failure to recognize unearned revenue. Okay? Failure to recognize unearned revenue. So, The full amount was recognized in 2018. Walang adjustment at the end of the year in 2018 and in 2019. So, okay. So, the company received 120,000 of revenue, which is, again, 3 years siya, that is equivalent for 36 months, di ba? 3 years. So, sana, ang ginawa ng company is that to recognize, if we do it monthly, is that 120,000 divided by 36. So, ang monthly income sana nito is 3,333.333. Diba? Ito. Diba? So, the point is, in 2018, ang revenue lang sana is that, if we count it from May to December 31, okay, May 1 to December 31, 2018, that is May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. That is 8 months only. So, 3,333 times 8 months, ang revenue mo dapat sana in 2018 is that ito siya, okay? Yung monthly mo multiplied by 8 months. So, dapat 666.6667 lang sana, or 0.67 if you round it off. Ba? Ito. But the point is, ano yung ginawa? Itong 120,000 is recognized as revenue fully. So, anong nangyari dyan? Overstated, obviously, yung revenue natin by 93,333. So, paano yan siya kinuha? Rounded to whole numbers lang yan siya. So, di ba? The point is, 120,000 yung na-recognize natin, which is, ang dapat sana is 26,667 lang. Di ba? Rounded off. Sumobra tayo by 93,333. Buha, no? Next. In 2019, yung effect nito is that, obviously, wala tayong ni-recognize na income nito because it was fully recognized in 2018. Which, ang effect nito is that it will understate your net income by 40,000. So, paano yan kinuha yung 40,000? Diba, yung monthly natin is we have 3,333.3333, diba? In 2019, that is obviously 1 year recognition na tayo. So, for 12 months. So, we have rounded off 40,000 of understated income. Diba? So, yun siya. No? Okay. Next is we have an unearned rent of 36,000 hindi na-record noong 2018. So, unearned rent, naka-receive na naman tayo ng income pero hindi pa siya earned. Obviously, in 2018, sobra tayo by 36,000. In 2019, which is the year na dapat i-recognize siya ng income, pero na-recognize natin siya as income in 2018. So, ano yung nangyari? Kulang yung net income natin. Kaya, understated yung net income by 2019. Okay? So, next, capital expenditure of 1,500,000 on January 1, 2016 for an office equipment, which has a useful life of 5 years. Now, remember the error ha? January 1, 2016 pa ito nangyari. Erroneously charged as maintenance expense. So, the point is, in 2016, okay, in 2016 tayo muna. Backtrack tayo para ma-understand natin yung error. Okay? In 2016, okay, in 2016, dapat itong 1,500,000 na office equipment, this should be part of your non-current asset, di ba? However, okay, it was erroneously charged to maintenance expense. So, this will what? Overstate your maintenance expense. Okay, this will overstate your maintenance expense. But, again, just like with the previous problem na sinolve natin, this has a corresponding effect also to your depreciation. Kasi nga dapat, capitalizable asset siya, it should be depreciated. So, 1,500,000 divided by its useful life of 5 years, annually, there should be a 300,000 annual depreciation. Di ba? So, ano yung effect ng error na to? Because nga, expense na siya, hindi ito na-recognize. So, this basically understates your expense. So, overall, in 2016, okay, in 2016, we have a net overstatement of expense amounting to 1,500,000 minus 300,000. So, we have 1,200,000 overstated, okay, overstated expense. So, pag overstated yung expense mo, okay, pag overstated yung expense mo, ano yung effect sa net income? Understated net income. Diba? Understated net income. Kaya nga, ito yun, understated by 1,2. Okay? In 2017, ano na lang yung effect ng error? Okay? Ano na lang yung effect ng error? Error, okay, that pertains to your depreciation. So, that is 300,000 na understatement of your depreciation expense. So, kung understated yung depreciation expense mo, ano yung effect sa net income? Obviously, overstated. Di ba? That goes to your 2017 and up to 2019. Di ba? So, yun siya. Di ba? That is how you analyze errors. Okay? That is how you analyze errors. Okay? So, ang effect nito sa retained earnings natin, okay, beginning in 2019 is that ito, your understatement by 1,2 in 2016, okay? Then, your overstatement of 300,000 annually starting from 2017 to, annually from 2017 to 2018. So, that is, di ba? That is 600,000 overstatement. So, the net overall effect sa retained earnings natin is that originally, the 1,200,000 minus the overstatement of 300 in 2017 less the overstatement of 300,000 in 2018. So, we have a net understatement of 600,000. Ito. Ba? So, that is how you analyze this particular exercise. Okay? So, okay. Next problem tayo. Okay, next problem. Ito, medyo nakakalito siya if you really do not have that concrete basic, no? So, aside from errors, if we consider errors in financial statement class, no? Again, hindi lang siya nagfo-focus. Okay? Hindi lang siya nagfo-focus sa failure to accrue or failure to defer, no? Failure to recognize accruals and deferrals. Sometimes, or most of the time, for that matter, is that mayroon din tayong error sa inventory. No? So, ano yung effect nitong error ng inventory? Ito. So, um, 2019 audit tayo. Okay? Then, these are the errors na na-note natin. We have 6 errors. Okay. So, let's look at, dumiretso na tayo sa working paper natin. Okay? Sa working paper natin. Okay? So, okay. Okay. So, number 1 error. Ending inventory daw, costing 50,000 in 2018, was understated because hindi natin nasali yung goods in the consignee's hands. Again, basic concept in inventory. Inventories held on consignment is part of the inventory of the consignor. So, kumbaga, any consigned goods, okay, is an inventoriable asset of the consignor, not the consignee. So, nangyari nito is that in 2018, okay, in 2018, merong hindi nasali na inventory because nandun siya sa warehouse ng or sa store ng consignee. Pero in fact, dapat isali natin because si entity nito, ito si First Lane Plus Company, okay, is that sila yung consignor. So sila dapat yung may-ari nito. Pero hindi to, hindi nasali sa inventory natin. So ano yung effect niyan? Our inventory is understated. Okay? Our ending inventory is understated. So again, class, no? Pag understated yung ending inventory natin, ano yung effect niyan sa cost of sales? Okay? If ending inventory is understated, okay, kulang, okay, yung cost of sales natin is what? Overstated. Kung overstated yung cost of sales natin, yung net income natin is, ano yung effect sa net income? Understated. Diba? So again, pag ending inventory is understated, yung cost of sales natin is overstated. Pag overstated yung cost of sales natin, yung net income is understated. Diba? So, para mas madali natin yan siya maintindihan na concept. Diba? So, example lang, no? Example lang. Assuming we have a beginning inventory of 0. Let's say 0, assume amount. Diba? Then we have a purchases of, let's say, 100,000. So we have a total goods available for sale of 100,000. So assuming the correct amount of inventory, let's say is 100. No, sorry. Let's say the correct amount of ending inventory, let's say we have 80,000. Okay, let's say 80,000. So we have a correct cost of sales of 20,000, di ba? We have a correct cost of sales of 20,000. So again, assuming we have a beginning inventory of 0, purchases of 100,000. So we have a total goods available for sale of 100,000. Assuming the correct ending inventory is that, i-assume lang natin is that 80,000. So we have a cost of sales of 20,000. Now what happens in the problem? So wala tayong beginning inventory pa rin. So the correct amount is 100. So we have a total goods available for sale of 100,000. Now, what happened is that nagkulang daw tayo sa ending inventory. So that makes our ending inventory understated, di ba? So pag understated tong 80,000 natin, in our particular example, this is only 30,000. Di ba? So, if that is the case, kung understated to, we have a computed 70,000 na cost of sale. So, kung pansinin natin, the correct amount is 20,000. After the error, naging 70,000 siya. So, what happens? Overstated yung cost of sales natin. Kung overstated yung cost of sales natin, obviously, yung net income is understated. Di ba? Sobra yung cost of sales. Kumbaga, parang sobra yung expense natin. Okay? That is why, understated yung net income natin by 50,000. Now, in 2019, obviously, this ending inventory becomes your beginning inventory in the subsequent period. Di ba? It becomes your beginning inventory in the subsequent period. So meaning, if your ending inventory is understated in the current period, that also means na yung beginning inventory mo is understated by 50,000. So again, to continue our illustration ha. So 30,000 tayo, di ba? So let's say 2019 na to. So beginning inventory na naman yung point of consideration natin. Yung correct natin kanina is that it was 80,000. Pero yung error natin is that yung beginning inventory is that it is now 30,000. So let's say, yung purchases pa rin natin, let's say is nasa 100,000 pa rin. Okay? Then the correct, So with this, we will have a total goods available for sale of 180,000, di ba? Then we have 130,000. Then let's say yung ending inventory in 2019, let's say is correct siya at 20,000. So that will bring our cost of sales now correct to 160. The error, we will have 110. So what is the effect? The cost of sales is understated because if you may notice, no, ito yung correct natin 160,000. 'Di ba? 160,000. Yung error natin is 110. So, it is understated by 50,000. 'Di ba? So the point is, if that particular inventory is understated siya by 50,000, okay, if that is understated by 50,000, the net income now is overstated by 50,000. Kaya ito. Diba? Kaya yan siya. So, ang effect niyan ngayon is that the retained earnings is understated because the effect of that error in 2018. And in 2019, diba, as noticed, understated yung cost of sales natin by 50,000. So, 50,000 understatement ng cost of sales. Okay? Now, bakit cost of sales yung adjusting account natin in 2019? Now, remember na yung focus natin dito sa correction is that inventories that relate to your cost of sales, di ba? Hindi yung inventory na pinipresent natin sa balance sheet. So, yung adjusting entry natin should focus on your cost of sales, no? And, again, obviously po, Okay? Obviously then, is that we are in 2019. So the correction was to correct your what? Beginning inventory, not your ending inventory. Kasi nga, kung yung correction natin is ending inventory, the affected accounts is your cost of sales and your inventory that will be presented in your uh, balance sheet. Okay? So, yun siya. Okay, now, next, in 2019 daw, ending inventory was overstated by 40,000 due to the double counting of some items. 2019 to ha. So, overstated. So, again, pag overstated yung ending inventory mo, opposite ng understatement tulad dito sa exercise transaction 1 natin. So, obviously, kung overstated, what is the effect of your cost of sales? It is understated. Kung understated yung cost of sales mo, okay, kung understated yung cost of sales mo, the net income obviously is overstated. Okay? The net income is overstated. Now, yung affected accounts natin, okay, yung affected accounts natin is that wala sa retained earnings, obviously, because this error is in 2019. Yung cost of sales na 40,000. Kasi yun nga, di ba, as stated, understated yung cost of sales natin. So, ito yun. At the same time, because ending inventory yung affected natin, affected din yung inventory to be presented sa balance sheet, which is, it is overstated by 40,000. Okay? Now, to illustrate yan siya para mas madali natin intindihin, is that, same example tayo. In 2019, okay, in 2019, let's say we have a beginning inventory of 0. Okay? Ito yung correct ha. Then we have a purchases of, let's say, 100,000 pa rin. So we have a total goods available for sale of 100,000. Ending inventory, let's say na yung correct is for no. Yung correct, let's say, is we have 80,000 pa rin. So we have a cost of sales of 20,000. Okay? Ito yun. Now, yung error daw is that your ending inventory is overstated by 40,000. No? So, let's say 0, then 100. Ito yung error ha. So, we have 100,000. So, assuming overstated daw, so pag overstated, magiging 120,000 na to, di ba? So, the effect is, if this is the case, we have a negative cost of sales. Now, this is for discussion sake only ha, para mapakita lang natin ng effect. So, walang negative na cost of sales. Klaro yan siya. This is for discussion sake only. So, the point is, no, yung correct is we have a positive 20,000. But, because of that 40,000 overstatement of your ending inventory, ito, diba? 40,000 difference yan. Yung cost of sales mo, naging negative 20,000. So, what is the difference yan? Diba? That is 40,000. Diba? So, kung pansinin nyo, from 20,000 naging negative. Understated yung cost of sales natin. So, kung understated yung cost of sales, obviously, yung net income is overstated. Okay? So, yun. Okay? Errors in inventory. So, ika-cut ko muna dito kasi napakahaba na ng video. Okay? We will just continue this discussion na on the next part. Okay? So, see you on the next part of this discussion. Okay?